Composition can be daunting to learn. With so many rules and guidelines touted by photographers like me, it's easy to become completely overwhelmed. Worst case scenario is that you end up with information paralysis and either give up photography completely, or you just forget about composition because it's too complicated and just take the shot anyway. So where should you start when learning about composition? Well, although some photographers absolutely hate it, I still think that the best way to learn about composition is through the rule of thirds. Because this very simple technique will instantly transform your photographs and will act as a baseline or a foundation for you then to build your knowledge, develop your creativity, and ultimately to add your own style to your photos. So to help you start taking great photos straight away, I'm going to be walking you through the rule of thirds, what it is, when you should use it, and finally I'll take you out on location with me and I'll show you how to actually set up a shot using the rule of thirds. My name's Steve, welcome to Behind the Tripod, and let's get started breaking down the rule of thirds. Look at these two images. Which one do you prefer? Chances are you chose the one on the left, but why? What is it that makes the image on the left so much more visually appealing than the one on the right? Well, it's not the light, or the subject for that matter, in any of the images. No, the reason that the image on the left works better is all to do with composition. Let me explain by overlaying a grid and I'll just talk you through it. So you can now see that we have two equally spaced horizontal lines and two evenly spaced vertical lines. These lines create a grid that effectively splits up the image into 9 equally sized boxes. Now, to make use of the rule of thirds, you need to place some of the key elements within your image either along one of the lines, or for a really powerful effect, place a key element at one or more of the intersections where the lines cross. And now for the kicker, you will start seeing the rule of thirds everywhere. If you start looking, and I mean really looking, at the world around you, both online and, as my daughter likes to call it, the offline world known as the Great Outernet, you'll see the rule of thirds being applied all over the place. Movie posters, for example, often use the rule of thirds, as well as billboard ads, company logos, YouTube thumbnails, and I even used the rule of thirds designing the thumbnail for this video. And for an extra point, have you noticed how I've set up the shot for this video? Yep, it's the rule of thirds again. And it's not even new theory. You see, artists have been using the rule of thirds to frame their compositions for centuries. In a moment, I'm going to take you out on a shoot with me and I'll show you how you can use the rule of thirds to frame up your shots. But before we do, I'd like to touch on some of the limitations of the rule of thirds and talk about why you shouldn't also be afraid to break this rule. You see, there are two main criticisms of the rule of thirds that I regularly hear. Firstly, that it's too formulaic, and secondly, that the rule of thirds can stifle creativity or expression and creative development. Now, it's certainly true that I don't use the rule of thirds for a lot of my photos, and as you build your experience and you learn more about composition, you may find that you use it less and less. But that's not to say that I don't use it at all. Of course I do, and I believe that learning the rule of thirds and using it a lot when you first start thinking about framing your images is a great way to learn about, firstly, when you should use the rule of thirds, and also when it clearly doesn't work and you may want to try something else. But you'll only really start to understand the rule of thirds through experience. So with that in mind, let's head out on location and look at some practical examples of the rule of thirds. So I'm here in the beautiful Lake District and I've got a lovely composition set up which I thought might just show you what I'm talking about when I talk about the rule of thirds. I've got a rock, I've gone for the old cliche, a rock in the foreground and some interest in the background. And what I've done is focused on the rock here, and I put the rock at the intersection where the left hand parallel line meets with the bottom horizontal line. And I've got the mountain, which is Vanadel knots, and I've got that on the right hand side parallel line where it intersects with the top horizontal line. I'm going to take the shot now. I'm at 1/4 of a second, f11, ISO 64. I've got a 2-second timer because as I press the button, I don't want any camera shake because it's a slow shutter speed. Just going to review the image just to make sure everything's in focus. And to me, although the light's not great today, this will work lovely as a black and white shot. And now I'm going to change my composition, and I want to highlight the difference between the rule of thirds and doing something rather different. So let's pull out a bit. I'm going to put the horizon dead center. I'm going to put the mountains dead center. And this time, same settings. I'm going to edit it in exactly the same way, but I want you to be aware of how different the image looks. So, not a bad picture. Now I'm sure you'll agree, or at least I hope you'll agree, that the rule of third image looks a little bit better. I will edit them in exactly the same way, so there'll be no difference in terms of light, in terms of editing. It's solely the composition. Now of course there are other compositional elements at play here, and I will do videos on some of those compositional elements in the future. But at the moment, just thinking about the rule of thirds, I'll be interested to know in the comments which image you prefer, whether you prefer the rule of thirds image or the other image I've just taken. Well, I'm going to go and find another composition now, one that doesn't use the rule of thirds, so that hopefully you can see that you don't always have to follow the rule of thirds for your images, but at this stage, I really hope you'll try it. So I've got a nice little composition here. I'm having to work quite quickly because I am starting to lose the light now. So for my settings, 1 second exposure, f11, and I'm at ISO 64. Now with this composition, I just wanted to set it up to show you that not all pictures work with the rule of thirds. And this image, I don't think I'll be able to make this one work as a rule of thirds image, so I'm going to take it as a square crop. It'll likely be black and white because that's what I'm kind of seeing when I'm looking at this image, and it might make a nice little image for Instagram or something like that. So again, 2 second timer just so I don't get any camera shake. Magic. Just going to check my focus, just make sure everything's in focus as I want it to be. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so we're going to go back to the studio now, but before we do, if you're enjoying this video, I do tutorials like this every single week. Please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any more videos like this. So we've seen a couple of examples of when you can and when you maybe shouldn't use the rule of thirds, and I suppose what I want you to get from today's video is a working understanding of the rule of thirds and how you can apply it to your photography today to immediately improve your compositions. So my challenge to you is to go out over the next couple of days and try using the rule of thirds with your own photography. Take some time to set up a shot thinking about placing key elements on the lines or at the intersections where those lines converge. But remember, like all rules, this is meant to be broken. So if it doesn't work for a particular shot, don't worry about it too much and just have fun bending the rules or breaking them completely. Now I'd love to see how you get on with your composition, so if you'd like to show me your rule of thirds photos or get some advice from other friendly photographers ranging from complete beginners all the way through to expert photographers, please consider joining our wonderful community in the Behind the Tripod Facebook group. We've got regular challenges designed to improve your photography, and we have a really active and friendly community of tripodders who are always happy to talk cameras and all things photography. I've added a link below, so please come along and join the conversation, and if you'd like to learn more about composition, you can always watch this video right here.